The Central California lake that returned to this size right here for the first time in 40 years. You'll see.
A peaceful morning here on Tulare Lake. If you would have been here 6 months ago, this road that we're standing on that is submerged down there would have led you to tens of thousands of acres.
For decades, the dry basin of Tulare Lake lay dormant, a dusty remnant of what was once the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. Nestled in California's San Joaquin Valley, the lakebed had been drained and repurposed over the years for agriculture, with little indication that the mighty waters which once covered hundreds of square miles would ever return. But now, in a series of rapidly unfolding events, scientists are facing an unsettling reality. Tulare Lake is rising at an unprecedented rate, and what's emerging from beneath its surface is sending shockwaves through both the scientific community and the local population. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The rebirth of Tulare Lake did not come as a gradual, seasonal swelling. It arrived abruptly, accelerated by a confluence of climatic anomalies. Unusually intense atmospheric rivers dumped record-breaking precipitation across California, and the rapid melting of Sierra Nevada snowpack added a powerful surge. Streams and rivers that once trickled now roared into the basin, filling it with millions of gallons of water. Satellite images captured over just a few weeks showed the lake expanding aggressively, submerging farmland, overtaking roads, and swallowing entire structures that had stood firm for decades. As the lake grew, it began to reveal secrets long hidden under layers of sediment and agriculture. First came the twisted metal frames of long-forgotten farming equipment, rusted into grotesque shapes by time. Then, skeletal remains of livestock, remnants of past floods floated to the surface. But soon the discoveries turned from curious to unnerving. Strange geological formations not native to the area protruded from the waters. Some resembled weathered stone spires, others sharp, jagged clusters as if volcanic rock had been forced up from beneath the basin. Geologists were among the first to raise alarm. Initial field surveys showed signs of land deformation around the periphery of the lakebed. Cracks in the earth radiated outward from the newly submerged zones, and instruments detected low-frequency tremors not typical of the San Joaquin Valley. These seismic anomalies weren't tied to known fault lines, and they didn't resemble standard aftershocks. It was as though something was stirring beneath the lake, something old, something massive. Scientists scrambled to analyze the mineral composition of the strange rock formations. Lab results revealed trace elements not commonly found in surface geology: manganese nodules, deep crust silicates, and a high presence of rare earth elements typically found in oceanic trenches. The lake, it seemed, was exposing geological features that should not have existed in such a location. There was speculation about subterranean volcanic activity, but no signs of heat emission, magma flow, or gas release could confirm this theory. Then the biological anomalies began. Local wildlife appeared to be behaving erratically. Birds circled the lake in tight, chaotic spirals, then fell from the sky in small groups. Insects clustered in massive swarms along the shores, forming dense, moving carpets that pulsed with rhythm as if responding to an unseen signal. Fishermen, eager to explore the returning waters, began pulling up creatures no one could identify. Some bore resemblance to known species but were deformed. Elongated bodies, extra limbs, eyeless heads. Others were entirely foreign, like deep-sea creatures dredged up from the abyss, slick with mucus and incapable of surviving more than a few minutes in the open air. Ecologists conducted tests on the water, expecting signs of contamination or chemical imbalances. What they found instead was a complex chain of microbial life unlike anything previously documented in freshwater ecosystems. DNA sequencing revealed ancient genetic markers, some dating back tens of thousands of years. The microbial soup seemed to be feeding off subterranean mineral deposits, forming an alien food web that had remained hidden, hibernating perhaps, for millennia. Rumors began to spread as the scientific findings became more surreal. Local farmers whispered about strange lights flickering across the lake at night, pulsing like bioluminescent algae but with colors never seen in nature. Shifting blues and greens, deep crimsons, and occasionally, flashes of ultraviolet that left after images burned into the eyes. Some even claimed to hear low mechanical humming sounds vibrating through the air in the early hours before dawn. The most terrifying discovery came when a research drone malfunctioned and crash-landed in the deeper portion of the lake. When retrieved days later, its onboard footage showed footage of what appeared to be an immense structure beneath the water, angled planes and symmetrical lines that nature does not typically produce. The shape resembled a stepped pyramid, partly buried in the lakebed silt. It stretched for what appeared to be hundreds of feet across. The camera feed cut out before any detailed analysis could be completed, but the implications were immediate and chilling. Archaeologists were brought in, but their efforts were hampered by the rapid rise of the water and the instability of the surrounding terrain. Theories blossomed, ranging from lost civilizations to unknown pre-Columbian cultures whose history had been wiped from the records by time and water. Yet no known tribe or settlement had ever been associated with permanent structures in the Tulare Lake region, and nothing in California's geological timeline suggested a society advanced enough to create megalithic architecture on that scale, certainly not one that left no trace elsewhere. More unsettling still were the changes being observed in people working near the lake for extended periods. Several researchers reported migraines, hallucinations, and a persistent sense of dread. Instruments used to measure electromagnetic fields began spiking wildly around certain parts of the lakeshore. Time seemed to dilate for some. Reports came in of researchers experiencing time lapses, where hours passed in what felt like minutes. Psychological evaluations showed heightened stress markers, yet no environmental toxin could be isolated as the cause. Speculation turned to ancient impact events. Some scientists proposed that what was emerging was not just a natural geological anomaly, but the remnants of a buried object, possibly a meteor, or even a fragment of something not terrestrial. The idea gained traction when samples retrieved from deep under the lake tested positive for isotopes not commonly found on Earth. Such findings would normally be kept under tight wraps, but leaked data quickly reached the public, feeding a frenzy of apocalyptic theories. Despite the bizarre revelations, authorities struggled to maintain order. Emergency management teams were already stretched thin, dealing with flooding, evacuations, and infrastructure collapse caused by the expanding lake. Scientific teams operated in increasingly tense conditions, balancing the pursuit of knowledge with a gnawing fear that they were unearthing something best left buried. Discussions began about sealing off the area completely, both to protect the public and to prevent further disturbance of what lay beneath the water. Then came the tremor, a shallow, violent quake that struck directly under the center of the lake. It was brief, just under 15 seconds, but powerful enough to send ripples across the entire basin. Mud geysers erupted along the shores, and a noxious, sulfur-like smell filled the air. When the waters settled, something new had emerged. A dark, oily slick covered a portion of the lake's surface, shimmering with unnatural hues and undulating slowly as if responding to unseen tides. Samples collected from the slick revealed organic compounds that defied classification. Some molecular structures were unlike anything cataloged in modern biochemistry. Spirals within spirals, fractal sequences with unknown function. Several researchers likened the discovery to finding alien biota, not in space, but beneath California's soil. Word spread like wildfire, and soon fringe theorists, spiritualists, and cult-like groups began arriving at the lake's perimeter. Some claim the rising water signaled an awakening, of Earth itself, or of ancient forces slumbering beneath. Despite efforts to keep the area secure, confrontations erupted between these groups and local authorities. A few managed to bypass barriers, only to vanish without a trace. Their vehicles were found abandoned days later, partially submerged, with the electronics fried and windshields cracked from the inside. The scientific community found itself caught between the desire to understand and the instinct to retreat. Grants poured in from institutions desperate to get ahead of the discoveries, yet seasoned researchers began resigning from the project, citing overwhelming dread and unexplainable mental fatigue. One notable seismologist described the experience as standing on the edge of something staring back, an unease that transcended reason. As Tulare Lake continues to swell, the full scope of what it contains remains unknown. The waters seem to carry more than just geological or biological secrets. There is an undeniable sense that the lake has become a threshold between what is understood and what lies beyond comprehension. Every new discovery deepens the mystery rather than solves it. And with each passing day, as the shoreline creeps outward and the anomalies multiply, the question no longer seems to be whether something terrifying is emerging from the lake, but rather how long it has been waiting. Whatever is happening beneath the surging waters of Tulare Lake continues to evolve with increasing urgency, refusing to be ignored. As researchers work feverishly to collect data and map the transformation, it has become clear that the rising waters are not simply a natural phenomenon. They are a mechanism, part of a deeper and far older process still revealing itself. The changes taking place are accelerating, and they are not confined to the lake alone. New fissures have begun forming miles away from the lake's edge, across farmland and small rural towns once thought safe from the flooding. These aren't simple cracks caused by water saturation or ground instability. They appear geometrically consistent, running in long, almost ruler-straight lines, intersecting at odd angles. Ground-penetrating radar scans have revealed unusual voids beneath some of these fractures, suggesting the presence of hollow spaces or cavities that predate any known human development in the area. In some places, entire sections of the Earth sound different, as though there's something massive lying just beneath the surface, dense enough to affect sonar yet too deep to excavate without risking collapse. Within these fissures, survey teams have encountered mineral formations glowing faintly in low light. The glow doesn't stem from radiation, phosphorescence, or any known chemical process. The light pulses at regular intervals, almost like a biological rhythm. Samples retrieved under extreme caution degraded within hours, breaking down into an inert gray dust that resisted reconstitution. Their temporary structure appeared to respond to electromagnetic fields, subtly shifting shape when exposed to different frequencies. Despite the breakdown, the samples left behind a faint magnetic signature, a trace that seems to interfere with electronics, even after physical contact has ended. More curious still are the auditory anomalies now spreading beyond the lake. What started as low-frequency hums detected only by sensitive equipment has grown louder. Entire communities near the periphery of Tulare Lake now report an audible thrumming sound at night. It pulses through walls, invades dreams, and leaves people feeling disoriented and exhausted. Sleep studies conducted in makeshift field clinics revealed a strange pattern. Those exposed to the hum experience unusually synchronized brainwave activity, falling into REM cycles within minutes, yet awakening with fragmented memories, visions of shapes, shifting corridors, immense shadows moving beneath dark waters. Some of the affected individuals, many of whom have never had contact with each other, sketch the same symbols upon waking. Spirals, interlocking triangles, and concentric circles embedded with tiny slashes. None of these match known languages or symbols, but they are strikingly consistent. Neurologists are struggling to interpret the phenomenon, debating whether the lake's emissions are triggering a dormant neural response, or if external information is somehow being broadcast into human minds. Meanwhile, atmospheric conditions above the lake are shifting. Radar and satellite imagery have captured persistent cloud formations hovering over the basin even during periods of statewide clear skies. These clouds behave unusually, circulating slowly in tight gyres that ignore prevailing wind patterns. Weather balloons launched into them relay garbled telemetry before being disabled entirely. Pilots flying near the region have reported instruments going haywire, compasses spinning, altimeters freezing. Some commercial airlines have quietly rerouted to avoid passing above the area, citing temporary interference zones to passengers, though internally, the phenomenon is under intense scrutiny. Back on the ground, the shoreline of Tulare Lake is no longer a static frontier. Each day brings subtle but unmistakable changes. The silt around the edge seems to be drying unnaturally fast, forming brittle crusts that crack into spiderweb-like patterns. From beneath these cracks, a faint mist now rises at sunset, a vapor with no apparent source of heat, odor, or moisture. Yet when it drifts across vegetation, plant tissue browns and wilts within minutes, as though flash-aged. Botanists are baffled, unable to identify any chemical trace left behind by the mist. Under the lake, the pyramid-like structure glimpsed by the malfunctioning drone has become a focal point of obsession. After multiple attempts to locate it again, a breakthrough came when a team deployed a deep-penetration submersible tethered to a manual winch. The submersible's camera fed back clear footage. The structure is not singular, but part of a complex. Rows of monolithic stonework extending deep into the basin. The walls are inscribed with markings, precise geometric patterns and radial carvings resembling celestial maps. The age of the stone remains unverified, but geological wear suggests a construction date tens of thousands of years old, far older than any human settlement on the North American continent. The artificiality is undeniable, and it has forced even the most skeptical experts to consider extraordinary possibilities. Some posit that the complex is the remnant of a pre-human civilization, one wiped out by cataclysmic shifts in Earth's climate or tectonics. Others suggest an external origin, that it could be a remnant of some interstellar visitation, embedded within Earth's crust long before the rise of Homo sapiens. Whatever its source, the structure is now clearly influencing its environment in real time. Vibration readings indicate the monolith pulses at intervals matching the lake's hum, every 17 minutes and 43 seconds. This consistency is disturbing. When monitoring equipment was left running overnight, seismic anomalies spiked in rhythm with the pulses, and the surrounding lakebed briefly expanded and contracted by measurable degrees, as if something within the complex was powering up or attempting to communicate. The regularity of these pulses has since grown stronger, no longer requiring special instruments to detect. People standing at the water's edge report feeling the rhythm in their chest, as if their heartbeat is being pulled into alignment with something vast and unseen. As awareness of the phenomenon spreads, the government presence around Tulare Lake has grown exponentially. Unmarked vehicles now patrol the area, and drones equipped with high-resolution LiDAR scan the lake around the clock. Rumors have emerged of subterranean drilling rigs being deployed at night, their lights seen from miles away before being quickly extinguished. Local residents attempting to photograph the activity have had their footage confiscated, their devices wiped. A wall of secrecy is building, even as the lake itself refuses to remain hidden. Among independent researchers, there's rising concern about the long-term ecological impacts of what's unfolding. The lake's water chemistry is shifting. pH levels have spiked, trace metals have increased, and a slow radioactive drift is creeping outward from the basin. Fish populations introduced into the lake just months prior are exhibiting extreme mutation rates. Some have developed armor-like scales, others transparent flesh revealing twisting vascular systems that seem to move independently of the creature's musculature. Many no longer exhibit typical vertebrate behavior, responding to threats or food inconsistently. The lake is creating or awakening forms of life that do not obey terrestrial rules. Across California, a strange side effect is spreading. Migratory patterns of birds are shifting, and not just those near Tulare Lake. Species known to travel through the Pacific Flyway have begun avoiding the region entirely, rerouting hundreds of miles east. Insects are vanishing in swaths, their absence leading to cascading effects on agriculture. Beekeepers report hive collapses at an accelerating rate, and pollination-dependent crops are showing signs of stress. The invisible reach of Tulare Lake's transformation appears to be extending beyond its watery borders. And then there are the dreams. Not just among scientists or those living near the lake, but increasingly among people hundreds of miles away. Online forums and research communities are swelling with anecdotal reports of recurring visions. Endless corridors lit by a dull red glow, walls that shimmer with fluid motion, and always, the sense of being watched by something colossal and motionless. Psychiatrists reviewing the reports have noted the uncanny similarity between individuals with no common backgrounds or exposure to media coverage. Something is reaching out, not with words but with impressions, symbols, emotions so dense they come in waves. Some researchers now suspect that the rising lake may not be a trigger of this psychic contagion, but rather a response to something already in motion. This hypothesis is gaining traction, that the return of Tulare Lake is not merely geological but reactive, as though the Earth, or something beneath it, has sensed a shift in the surface world and is now responding accordingly. Perhaps it is a defense mechanism, perhaps a form of release, or perhaps more disturbingly a preparation. A second submersible mission, launched in secret and not disclosed to the public, reportedly reached deeper into the submerged structure than any before it. Though communications with the device ceased minutes before its scheduled ascent, partial telemetry was recovered. Among the last packets of data was a sonar map of a vast chamber, hundreds of feet across, hexagonal in shape, lined with repeating geometric depressions that suggest either storage or habitation. Whatever inhabited that space is gone now, or dormant. But within the final seconds of the footage, something stirred. Not light, not movement in the water, but a distortion in the surrounding pressure. A sudden dip, as if something massive had shifted its position after an epoch of stillness. The implications are now being considered at the highest levels of global scientific leadership. If the lake is revealing the surface of a buried system, the question becomes, how deep does it go? Could the Tulare complex be only the tip of an entire subterranean network? If so, what was its purpose? And is it still operational? Geopolitical tensions have flared in response to leaked satellite data showing similar underwater anomalies in other regions of the world. Some beneath melting glaciers, others in deep desert basins. The possibility arises that Earth may harbor a hidden lattice of ancient constructs, long buried, awaiting activation through means we do not yet understand. If the lake is indeed part of a larger system, then its reawakening is not an isolated event, it is the start of a global sequence. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Tulare Lake rising? Do you expect flooding damage? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.